Welcome to Transforming and Thriving
with best friends Brooke, Stacie, and Neelia.
Podcast dedicated to women sharing their inspirational stories.
Hey there, everyone. We're so excited to be back. I'm Brooke.
And I'm Stacie. Today we have a special guest, Elizabeth Abraham. Elizabeth is a dear friend of our co-host, Neelia Heydt, and she's known Neelia since she was 14 years old. Coming from an Italian family, she is a true culinary connoisseur specializing in Italian cooking. She loves sharing her passion with the community, always offering comforting meals to friends, neighbors, and family. She loves to entertain and travel. She has 2 other adult children, in addition to the son she lost. Her surviving son is in Texas and her daughter is in San Clemente. And they also have children, aka Liz's grandkids. She is a giving woman with a huge heart. A few examples of this are that she writes Christmas cards to servicemen overseas, and she's constantly feeding her loved ones and making sure they have warm food and full bellies.
Welcome, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being here today. How is your morning going?
My morning's been great. Thank you. So far, so good.
Good. That is good. And, being a military family, I'm very appreciative of the Christmas cards that you write. That is wonderful. And I'm just curious, what's your favorite Italian dish to cook?
I don't really have a favorite, to be honest with you. I like
Okay.
making it all. I don't really have a favorite. I like to make what people want.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Well, Italian food is delicious. There's so many options to choose from. Well, again, thank you for being here today and really for being so open to sharing such a deeply personal and difficult time that you went through in your life. Do you mind starting us off by maybe telling us a little bit about this difficult loss you experienced?
So my middle son, Richard, at the age of 37, passed away on June 25th of 2017. And that was probably the hardest time in my life. I can't think of anything worse that can happen to anybody is losing somebody they love. It just, it was a shock. They came to my house like at 2:00 in the morning to give me the wonderful news. And it was pretty hard, from that night. It was pretty hard. And it took me probably like 6 months for it really to sink in. And then I think once it sunk in, I felt like I was kind of on my road to recovery. Not there yet, but I was kind of on my road to recovery.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing what happened? Are you comfortable sharing that?
Oh, of course. So he was a hiker. He was very athletic, and he was up in San Bernardino Mountains, and he was hiking with his dog. And they got up to the very top, and he noticed that Kaya, his dog, was like panting a little bit. It was hot that day. It was very hot that day. And so as they walked down the mountain, he told his friend, I'm going to walk down to the car and get Kaya some more water. And they walked down to the car, and he opened the driver's door, and Kaya got in, and he got in, but then he just killed over. And a girl had found him laying there by his car.
Oh, my goodness.
So I think it was heat exhaustion. I remember talking to the coroner, and they said that 90-something people passed away that day from heat exhaustion.
That's unimaginable.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine the heartbreak of losing a child. I have a son of my own, and when I was a little girl, I remember my worst nightmares were monsters under the bed. But now being a mother myself, my nightmares that wake me up at night are anything happening to my son. I just can't even fathom what that was like for you. How did you find strength and courage in those dark moments early on after this happened?
Well, I kind of realized that, I had so much support from all my friends. Neelia, my best girlfriends, they all were calling me just about every day, coming over and this and that. But as good as they were, I felt good when they were here or when I talked to them. But then after that, I slumped right back into the same mood. And I finally realized that they're not they're just putting a Band-Aid on the situation, that they can't fix it and that I'm the only one that can fix it. So I just said to myself, I need to start being busy. I need to keep busy. And basically that's what I did. Wherever I could volunteer or do whatever, I would keep busy, because the more I was alone at home while my husband was at the office, the more you're home, your wheels start turning and you start thinking about it. So I think the best thing for me was time and just keeping busy.
Yeah, I have definitely heard people talk about keeping a routine, as difficult as it probably is to find strength to do the everyday tasks, I can imagine. And is there anything in particular that inspired you, or I guess I should say, recognizing that you needed to be active and busy? Is there anything that like inspired you to do that and keep moving?
I just noticed that every day I woke up, I was in this depression, which I did take medicine for depression. And I just realized this is not me. Yes, I know I lost my son, and I know my son wouldn't want me to be like this because I had such a wonderful relationship with him, and he wouldn't want that. And I just thought to myself, I got to do something, you know, because this can either turn out good where it makes me stronger, or it could go the opposite way and, possibly make me weaker where, it has no good end to it. So I just realized the more I'm by myself, the more I'm in this depression. And so I just finally had to get out and start doing things. And it was a push, because you come to a point where like you don't want to be around people, you don't want to talk to people. I mean, I did get to a point like that where I didn't want to talk to anybody. But, you kind of put on this show, like, you want them to think you're okay, but you're really not okay inside. So I did that for a while. But I think the thing for me was that I finally said to myself, you got to push yourself, and I think through all this, truthfully, I think it just made me stronger, because
Yeah.
we can overcome anything if we want to.
Yeah, that's such a good outlook, and it sounds like you took this loss and found strength in that to fuel you, and living maybe for him is kind of what I'm hearing you say, and that pushed you. I'm sure it was so difficult to do, but what a beautiful way to carry his memory. I'm sure he would be very, very proud of you.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, just the idea of carrying his legacy forward and really finding reasons to keep on going and seeking out meaningful things to do and meaningful connections. Something you said a minute ago just made me think of a question I would really love to hear, because I know many people struggle with knowing what to say or how to support someone who has endured a loss like yours. I'm wondering, what did you find helpful or supportive during your initial grieving process and maybe also later?
Actually, the best thing that worked for me, and I realize this, and I do this with, like I have a friend who's lost a husband and a son within 2 years. And so I
Oh my
just
gosh.
yeah, I've known her for 45 years. She's like my best friend, and I realized the best way to deal with that is people. You have to remember, people are giving you sympathy, but they really can't tell you how to grieve unless they've grieved from an event, unless they have lost somebody. And so you have to look at these people. I had people telling me all the time, "Oh, you should do this and you should do that, or go read this book or go see this counselor." And I thought to myself, how could they tell me things like that if they haven't experienced, if they haven't been in my shoes, how could they tell me what to do? Because they have no idea what I'm going through. They really don't. And so I finally realized, and with some of my friends, like I have friends who told me, go see a counselor and do this and that. And then I had other friends who just hung out with me and didn't say anything. And to me, that's the best. It's better to be a listener, than sit there and give advice of something that you know nothing about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing that because, of course, people can have the best of intentions, but it is really important that you sharing this perspective. If somebody hasn't gone through loss, they truly can't empathize. Your grieving is unique to you. And of course, like I said before, people are well intended. And I think it's our natural tendency to want to fix or find a solution to alleviate somebody from pain. But it's so helpful to hear your perspective that when you're grieving, in that period when you're grieving, the most important thing is really to be a listening ear.
Yeah, I think, another thing is people don't, first of all, everybody's different and everybody grieves different. Some people, they can get over it, move on. Some people can't. And I think that has a lot determined with the kind of relationship you have with that person too. I think that's a big part of it. And so, and I'm very close with all my children. We can talk about anything, anytime, whatever. We have nothing to hide. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. But like I said, everybody grieves, takes a different amount of time to get through something. It could be, just for example, you could go through a death and take, like for me, like I think of my son every day. Yes, I've gone through it, but it doesn't mean I don't miss him. I miss him every day. But I've learned to live with it. And I think one thing that really came to me one day, I finally sat on my steps. I was going down the stairs and I sat down and I said to myself, okay, this is your new normal. You still have your life, but this is your new normal. So before you had a different life, now your son's not in it, and this is your new normal. So this is my new normal every day without my son. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, your loss is so significant of an event. I think when anything happens that impacts you to this degree, you have to look at what this new transition means for you. And that's what you said beautifully, a new normal. That's such a great way to put it. It makes total sense. It's so hard to do, I imagine, but that perspective, it sounds like it helped you.
Well, when I look back, truthfully, it took me probably, I mean, I went up and down, up and down, up and down. And like I said, I took medicine for depression. Not anything, big. I mean, it was 10 milligrams of something that I would take at night just to help me sleep and just, rest my mind, which worked, so that helped a lot. And I'm not saying that, I'm not a person who just takes anything to take care of a problem, but I really needed it at the time. And I don't know, every day it was like a new day. Okay, I get up and say, okay, I got to make it through this day. Just try to do what do what you're best at. Do whatever you can to get through the day. Keep busy, and that's what I did. And if anybody needed help with something, I'm like, oh, I'll be there just to take up my day because I don't work. My husband still works, but I haven't worked since '99. So it's hard. I think if I were working, maybe it might have been a little easier for me because your mind is distracted with something else. But for me, it took longer. I have friends that lost their sons and they're they're still in bad shape. But what I tell my friends is that, okay, the hardest thing is for people to accept it because they sit there and they say, well, why did this happen? Well, you're never going to get an answer. That's what I told my friend. You're never going to get an answer. And and so instead of playing guessing games and wondering why this happened, you need to somehow force yourself to move on. You need to do what you need to do because you don't have your son anymore. You can't take care of him. Not that I had to take care of him, but I'm the kind of mom where, I don't care how old I am. If I'm still living and breathing, I want to take care of my kids. Just because they're out of the house doesn't mean I don't take care of them. So, I got to the point where I just said, okay, I need to get up tomorrow and do this. And I would make myself a list of stuff that I wanted to do tomorrow. So I already had a head start and that helped me. But I would do anything. But it took about a good 3 years. And then I would say after 3 years, I was pretty much back to normal, where I could get up and I have my son's picture on my nightstand and I'd say to him every day, I love you, I miss you. And then I go on with my day because truthfully, there's not anything I can do about it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like you said, that questioning why this happened can just it can make anyone go crazy. And it sounds like instead you've just tried really hard to push through and accept that you might never really understand what happened, but now, you're just still trying to move forward and do the best you can and have kind of what you said, your new normal. So it's like once things finally went back to normal, it's never really going to be the same. And now it's a new normal. And, like you said, also every person's grief experience is so different and personal. I think just hearing you share as a reminder, there's no timeline or right way or one way to heal. I'm wondering, I know you've shared a little bit already, but for anyone listening who might be going through something similar, is there anything else you would want to share with them from your own experience that might help them feel seen, supported, or less alone?
Well, I don't want to turn this into a religious podcast, but the thing is, I was raised Catholic, and my son was a Christian, and what's funny is that he wrote in his Bible that he didn't realize that I did go to church, but I really didn't. I go to church, but it didn't have the meaning it does for me now. So, and he had written in his Bible, there was a page on there where he said, "I wish my mom and dad to follow in my footsteps and become Christian." And so, anyway, the best thing for me really is I started going to church. I met a lot of people who supported me and always kept an eye on me. How are you? And this and that. And so that helped a lot. And it really helped me because I'm divorced from my son's father and remarried for almost 40 years. But the thing is, I never had a problem with my ex-husband, but my ex-husband, ever since we got divorced, had a problem with me. And like just being around me, where I was always cordial. Family holidays, my daughter we'd have us all together. And, it wasn't comfortable for me because I try to be cordial to anybody, whether I like them or not. But the thing is one day God spoke to me and he says, "Okay, you need to make up for Richie's sake. Richie would like that. You need to you need to make up with your ex-husband." And so I did one day. Finally, we had to go clean out his beach house one day after he had passed. And I went up to him. I said, "Okay, this has to stop. He's your son. He's my son. We need to support each other. Just because we're not together, we need to support each other. And because he's here because of us." And actually, that was probably one of the best things that came out of it. I'm not saying that was supposed to happen, but I didn't think that would ever happen, but it did, and it's good, and I have a good relationship with my ex-husband and his wife. I love them both. I mean, I laugh and giggle with her, and if it wasn't for him, we'd probably be best friends. Yeah. So
Well, it sounds like a tricky situation to navigate that you handled beautifully and you were able to bring everybody back together. And I love how, again, you are really doing things in your son's memory and living out his legacy, which is just so beautiful. I'm really moved by your resilience and it's not about moving on, but as you mentioned, really finding ways to move through life with this loss. You mentioned earlier creating this new normal, not one you ever asked for, but one that honors both your grief and your growth as well as him. There was this quote that I found by Jamie Anderson, and it says, "Grief is just love with no place to go." But, today, what you've shown us is that love still has somewhere to go. It goes into how you live, how you remember, and how you continue to share this story. So thank you for letting us witness your strength, your vulnerability, and just the ways that you're living on for him. Thank you.
oh, you're welcome.
To all of our listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of Transforming and Thriving. We'll be back every other Monday with more inspiring stories. Please follow us on your favorite podcast app and follow us on Instagram so you can be a part of this community and stay up to date with each episode. Feel free to leave a review so that we can get your valuable feedback and other people can find these powerful stories. We're all in this crazy life together, so let's move through it together. See you there.